Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Muslims throughout the world are rapidly reaching the end of the fasting month, the sacred month of Ramadan. And as we reach the end of Ramadan, preparing for the celebratory feast of Eid al-Fitr, we also commemorate the last Friday of this month as Al-Quds Day. Al-Quds Day was the last Friday of Ramadan, was designated by Al-Quds Day subsequent to the successful Islamic revolution in Iran, when Imam Ayatollah Khomeini declared the last day of Ramadan as Al-Quds Day for not just Muslims to commemorate, but as a part of the larger idea, in fact, that was brought about by the revolution, the idea of the solidarity of what the Quran calls the mustad'afuna fil ard. And this is a Quranic term, but by and large, it was absent from the general Muslim discourse. Terms such as the mustad'afun, the oppressed on the one hand, and the mustakbirun, the arrogant, the aggressors on the other. These weren't terms that were ordinarily or in common usage with Muslims until the advent of the revolution, when the terms became much more in vogue. And of course, there is no bigger example in the world today of the istikbar, of the arrogance of the superpowers in general, but more particularly the United States. And so in our affirmation of Al-Quds Day, in our memorializing not just the past oppression, aggression and occupation that the Palestinians have suffered at the hands of the Zionists, but also a commitment to the undoing of that oppression. So Al-Quds Day is both a memorialization event on the one hand, and on the other hand, it is a commitment that the Palestinians are not alone, that the Palestinians have brothers and sisters throughout the world, and painfully, these brothers and sisters are largely confined to civil society because their governments in the surrounding countries have completely sold out. Unlike in apartheid South Africa, where our neighboring countries paid a heavy price for their solidarity with the apartheid regime, in Israel, on the whole, increasingly, Palestine is being surrounded by Muslim countries whose governments are paying homage to Taghut, to the oppressor, to the tyrant. They are either all in the pockets of the United States, or they are in the pockets of Israel, or in the pockets of both. And the painful thing is that in the midst of this, the one country that has been standing solidly behind the Palestinians and that have refused to yield to the pressure and to the threats of the United States of America has been the Islamic Republic of Iran. And in the middle of this, what is most regrettable is that many of these so-called Muslim leaders, they try to get the Muslim masses to focus on the theological differences between Sunnis and Shia. And they focus on these theological differences as a means of avoiding the central question: is it permissible for Muslims to collaborate in the oppression of other Muslims and of any other person in the whole? So along with countries such as Cuba and Venezuela and Iran and the fighting people of the Sahara Republic, the Palestinians in many ways, as far as governments are concerned, are without friends. But as for the mustad'afuna fil ard, as for those in the global south especially, the people who feel marginalized, the struggling masses, those who are committed to the struggle against imperialism and against occupation, they continue to express their support, their admiration and their solidarity for the Palestinian people. Now, of course, here I am sitting in the city of Johannesburg, coming from South Africa, with a personal, a political and a social history of participating in the struggle of our own people against the apartheid regime. And many of the leaders of our liberation struggle who have been to Palestine before and who have visited there, including people like myself, we often get asked if the Palestinian experience can be compared to our experience of life under South African apartheid or Afrikaner or white apartheid. Our general response is invariably that it's not a question of whether Israel can be compared to apartheid South Africa. The truth is that life for the Palestinian people under Zionist occupation is far worse than what life for Black South Africans were under apartheid. In apartheid South Africa, we did not experience collective punishment. We did not experience the will of white people to wish us away from this country, as is the case with Zionism. That is, in fact, an alien import into that region of the land. But white South Africans were never determined to get rid of Black South Africans, as is the case with occupied Palestine today. And so in some ways, on the ground, it seems that the Palestinians are weak, but we know that if you looked at white South Africa, and it was also a nuclear power at that time, that white South Africa looked formidable against Black South Africans. But like all forms of tyranny, all Pharaohs, all Hitlers, all tyrants throughout the world, they thought that they would be able to live forever. In the words of the Quran, أَيَحْسَبُ أَلَّمْ يَرَهُ أَحَدٌ. Do they think that nobody sees what they're doing? But the end of tyranny, for those of us who believe in the dreams of the people, the end of tyranny, victory in South Africa, we always said, freedom or death. Victory is certain. And so for the Palestinian people, it's a choice of freedom or martyrdom. But the struggle for a free South Africa is a struggle for a free South Africa. We knew it did not come cheap. And in the same way, the struggle for a free Palestine is not going to come cheap. The question that we, as internationalists who believe in the solidarity of the oppressed, the question that we have to face is, it's not about when, it's not about Zionism and the Zionist state going to end. It is when it is going to end, and it is our responsibility to hasten its departure as it was our responsibility and moral duty to hasten the end of apartheid South Africa. Thank you very much.